Naruto, God-level lottery powers unleashed, episode 31. Yuna didn't expect to die in this mission, but she didn't have much fear in her heart. At least let her pull a kami ninja to be buried. The only regret is not being sure that the stars are still alive. At this critical moment, suddenly a figure rushed over with lightning speed and blocked Yuna's body. You. When Shinobu saw the person coming, he was shocked for a moment, and his movement slowed down a little. Surprised, right? The star who suddenly appeared sneered, and the spiral pill that had already condensed in his hand immediately blasted out, hitting Shinobu's abdomen. Pung! Sand Shinobu vomited blood and flew upside down, smashed it to the ground, tried to get up several times, but finally lost his strength and could not move. Captain? Yuna's consternation was no less than that of Shinobu. How's it going, are you okay? Xingchen asked with a smile. I'm fine, I'm just a little weak, but you? I'm in the same situation as you, a little better than you. Although it can gain great power, it is extremely taxing on the body. And after using the swastika solution, he rushed all the way over, and he was already very tired at this time. A spiral pill is almost the last trick he can make. Fortunately, Shinobu hesitated and let him succeed. The captain is back. During the battle, Kawamoto and Nakata also noticed the return of the stars, and their morale was immediately boosted. On the other hand, on the side of Shinobi, the two leaders, one became in a trance, the other fell to the ground, and lost their combat power, so that they had no intention of fighting again. After a few false moves, everyone dispersed. Kawamoto and they naturally didn't mean to chase, and they all gathered around the stars. Captain, fortunately you arrived in time, otherwise we would have finished playing. Captain, I used to have no eyes, from now on, my life is yours, only your life is followed. Nakata patted his chest and swore an oath. Yes, although you are the same age as my brother, I will obey you. The rest of the people also followed the stars. Who would not respect a captain who was willing to fight for his subordinates and put himself to death? Xingchen joked, now is not the time for sensationalism, clean up and prepare to go back, that's right. Yuna said seriously, Shinobu's pursuers may catch up at any time, don't worry about this, I think Shinobu has no more chasing soldiers. Xingchen said easily. Huh? Yuna was stunned. In terms of Sand Ninja, isn't there another upper ninja? Also, Sand Shinobu must have informed the village, maybe Sand Ninja Village will send more Shangnin, how could there be no chasing soldiers? Yuna didn't know that all the ninjas who came out to pursue Shinobu had all died at the hands of the stars. At this moment, a man galloped from afar, and in an instant. The man was burly and kind-faced, wearing a Konoha ninja forehead guard and uniform. Gentlemen, I am relieved to see that you are safe and sound. Chimu Shuamo. Yuna, who apparently knew the man, called out the name. Xingchen didn't know this person, but had definitely heard of the name. Kiki Shuomo, Kakashi's father, is known as the White Fang of Konoha. This is a legendary ninja who is not inferior to the three shinobi. Naruto-sama sent you? Yuna asked Kiki Shuomo. Well, when Hokage received your message, he immediately sent me to receive it. I thought I would have to fight hard, but I didn't expect. Chimu Shuomo glanced around, and saw the two miserable Sand Shinobi, and the Zonin, who had suffered a lot of casualties, and couldn't help but be shocked in his heart. This squad is actually so strong in combat. Immediately, his gaze fell on Xingchen, this, presumably the captain, sure Chi Xingchen, really young and promising, my achievement, compared to yours, is not worth mentioning. Haha, there is no need to say more about this mutual compliment, Hokage said that this mission has been completed, you guys go back with me. Phew. It's a thrilling and exciting mission, I don't know if there is a chance, you have a lot of life, if it weren't for the captain, we would all be dead. Next time will not be reckless, eat along and wise, people always grow in such trials. When he saw the stars, the three generations of Hokage were visibly relieved. He originally thought that this mission would not be too difficult with Yuna, but he didn't expect that this was a trap set by Shinobu. Shuomo, it's hard for you this time. Kiki Shuomo shook his head and said, Naruto-sama, I just ran my legs. When I arrived, Shinobu had already routed, and they were safe and sound. Sand Shinobu rout? The three generations were surprised. Didn't you say that there are 3 upper shinobi, and a dozen middle and lower shinobi ambush you? That's true, so Naruto-sama, you need to be prepared. Shinobu suffered heavy losses this time, and I'm afraid he will ask you for an explanation. Xingchen said meaningfully. Humph, they still dare to ask me for explanations? The third generation said in a deep voice, it's good that I didn't ask them to settle the account. That's okay, I hope you stick to your bottom line. Longing for peace is a good thing, but blindly tolerating will only increase the arrogance of others, Captain. Yuna glanced at the stars in shock, talking to Hokage, how could it be in such a tone? The rest of the people also beat drums in their hearts, the captain is the captain, the summoning of the group, the birds are not birds, and now they still have the posture of teaching Hokage to do things. However, the third generation of Hokage didn't seem to think so much, and nodded and said, if Shinobu really dares to find it, let's talk about it. As for you, take 2 days off and give you a holiday. Walking out of Hokage's office and saying goodbye to Kiki Shushige, Hashitaka is also ready to go back to meet Tsunade and Rope Tree. Originally, after joining the Dark Department, there was no rest time, but this time it was an exception for the holiday. Captain, I have something to say to you. When parting, Yuna suddenly called out to the stars. What's the matter? Let's say, it's all my own people, what are you afraid of? Before I set off, Danzo summoned me and asked me. Yuna stopped talking. Tuanzo summoned you? Xingchen hesitated slightly and asked, let you spy on me? How do you know? Yuna was surprised. I know much better than you who Tuanzo is. Besides, you're not the only one who wants to spy on me. Xingchen's gaze turned and fell on Chuan itself. Kawamoto, what do you think? Kawamoto knew that Xingchen also knew his own affairs, and couldn't help but be ashamed. Naruto-sama has indeed ordered me to pay attention to your actions, Captain. I am afraid that I will be summoned alone later. Xingchen smiled indifferently. You guys just say it casually, it doesn't matter if you want to shrink, or exaggerate, or report truthfully, the two of them are boring enough. Episode 32. Hashichin returns home, but finds that Rope Tree and Tsunade are not there, and he can't help but wonder. Is it so unfortunate that both of them went out on a mission? In fact, most of the people who joined the dark part were just because he was more curious about the dark part and wanted to experience it. According to the original book, the Second Ninja World War will soon break out, and he will definitely go to the battlefield at that time, and joining the Dark Department is also a preparation. Since there was no one at home, Xingchen was not interested in staying, so he walked around the village at will. Stars? While walking down the street, a familiar voice sounded. The stars followed the prestige and saw 5 or 6 teenagers in uniform and a young girl slowly walking over. Among these people, Xingchen also saw many familiar faces. Uchiha Fugaku, Uchiha Mikoto, and Uchiha Birthday. And it was Uchiha who shouted out to him. Although he and Uchiha are a little incompatible, after all, they are both Tsunade's disciples, and they know each other a little. Birthday, you came just in time, do you know where Tsunade went? Since Uchiha is still in the village, Tsunade should be there. Uchiha Mikoto seemed to know something, and was just about to speak, but was stopped by Uchiha Fugaku on the side. If you want to know, beat me. Without saying a word, Uchiha directly challenged the stars. Xingchen was slightly stunned, thinking that this guy's brain was clamped by the door, and he pretended to be forced if he didn't agree. Although this guy can open the Sharingan, his strength is simply unbearable, and he is just a subordinate. I know, you are very disdainful. But I can tell you that I am different today. Uchiha was determined and seemed to think he would win. Xingchen said with interest, Shibetsu 3 days should be impressed. Are you saying that you have made a huge breakthrough in the past half a month? Of course, I would like to thank you. After you were gone, Tsunade-sensei spared no effort to teach me and Michiko ninjutsu, and our strength grew by leaps and bounds. Yes, then I'm interested in seeing it. Hashichin was not interested in Uchiha's strength, but in what Tsunade had done after he left. Don't disgrace us, Uchiha. Yes, give this arrogant brat a good beating. After Uchiha's birthday, Uchiha boy shouted at Neville. Uchiha Fugaku clasped his hands to his chest and watched quietly. His interest in the stars is stronger than that of Uchiha. In his opinion, among the younger generation of Konoha village, only Hinata Hayashi and Hoshi are his opponents. Brother Fuyue, which of the two do you think will win? Uchiha Mikoto suddenly asked. Mikoto, what do you think? Uchiha Mikoto replied seriously, Shin's strength seems to have improved a lot, but he will definitely lose. Uchiha Fugaku was slightly surprised, why are you so sure? Uchiha Mikoto's little face blushed, it's just intuition, he's very strong. Uchiha Fugaku looked at her deeply, then turned his head to look at the stars, and his expression became a little cold. Uchiha Mikoto didn't know why, I don't know if she said the wrong thing and upset him. Too lazy to run elsewhere, just try it here, it won't be long anyway. Xingchen stretched out his hand and made an inviting gesture, just shoot, let me see your changes. Uchiha was calm, he knew that Xingchen was not an ordinary opponent, and he had to go all out from the beginning. Sharingan, open. A jade riding wheel eye appeared impressively, and around the pupils, a trace of blood appeared. What I want to see is not your chakra eye, what can be used for a single tick of jade? Hashichin said contemptuously, Tsunade taught you something, just show it. As you wish. Uchiha didn't talk nonsense, drank deeply, stepped out. The steps were deep and powerful. With the help of the recoil force of kicking the ground, the speed was extremely fast, and in an instant, he rushed to the star, and punched out. Tsunade's stunt is strange power, and it seems that Uchiha learned from Tsunade is a type of physical skill. This explosive power has indeed improved a lot compared to him before. It's okay, but it's still too naive. Xingchen stood still in place, directly stretched out his hand, and seemed to be about to receive Uchiha's punch head-on. Yes? Uchiha sneered. Swish. Suddenly, his figure disappeared from front of him. After a flash, he appeared behind the stars out of thin air, jumped up in the air, and swept out with a side kick. Such an unexpected and extremely fast physical technique made Uchiha Fugaku on the side slightly moved. Okay, win. The teenagers of the Uchiha clan seemed ready to cheer for victory. However, at this moment, it was clear that his back was to the stars of Uchiha's birthday, but he suddenly backhanded and grabbed Uchiha's side kick steadily. In an instant, Uchiha almost stopped in mid-air, but all kinds of power seemed to have encountered an impenetrable wall, and life was cut off. Looking at the stars, he stood firmly like a pine and did not move at all. You. Uchiha couldn't believe it. Xingchen saw through his attack, and even caught his sweeping leg with one random hand that was enough to kick off a large tree. What is this power? I said, you're naive. Xingchen turned around and shook his head. If you only learned this trick from Tsunade, then you better admit defeat. Damn, since physical skills are not good, let's try ninjutsu. After Xingchen let go, Uchiha jumped back, and then his hands quickly froze, and a huge flame spit out from Uchiha's mouth. How fireball technique? Xingchen knew that the Uchiha family was good at fire, and the most commonly used and basic ninjutsu was how fireball. That's not right. Immediately, Xingchen noticed that this flame was changing shape, and it was faintly in the form of a dragon. Dragon fire art. The chakra that Uchiha had accumulated in his body was released at this moment. And that flame also completely changed into the form of a dragon, and the heat was more than double that of before. Be careful, back off. Uchiha Fugaku's expression changed. He never expected that Uchiha could make a fire of this scale. Xingchen was also stunned for a moment. He remembered that this fire ninjutsu belonged to the B level, which Sasuke had used when he fought against Uchiha Itachi, and it was an evolved version of the dragon fire art. Although Uchiha reluctantly used this trick, it was indeed rare for him. However, at this level, is it useful to deal with the stars? Episode 33. Just as the dragon fire devoured the stars, he saw the stars rushing forward, flashed in an instant, and disappeared from the place. Pung! With a loud noise, Xingchen seemed to ignore the spatial distance, and appeared directly in front of Uchiha, reaching out into a palm knife against his neck. Very good, in the past half a month, you have improved a lot, but that's all. Xingchen said lightly, you lost. At this time Uchiha looked tired and unwilling. Tiredness is because casting the dragon fire technique is extremely consuming to him. Unwilling because he made a trick at the bottom of the box, the dragon fire technique still can't win the stars. No, it's not that you can't win, it's not at all at one level. He is only now truly aware of the gap between him and the stars. And throughout the battle, his chakra did not work at all. The speed of the stars has exceeded the limit that a hook of jade can detect. The teenagers of the surrounding Uchiha clan were all silent at this time, although Uchiha was not as good as Uchiha Fugaku, but he was also a little famous in the Uchiha clan, but he didn't want to lose so crisply. Uchiha Fugaku glanced solemnly at the ground where the stars had stood before, and there was actually a recessed piece there, obviously caused by the recoil force when the stars moved. What a great force is required. However, he was also curious, did Xingchen focus on physical cultivation? There are also strong physical skills, but after all, they are a minority. The mainstream of ninja is still ninjutsu. Xingchen, this is just a small competition. Give me face and don't embarrass him. Uchiha Fugaku spoke. Am I looking like I'm going to embarrass him? Hogyoku glanced at Uchiha Fugaku and asked Uchiha again, okay, can you tell me where Tsunade is? Before Uchiha could speak, Uchiha Makoto took the lead and said, Hoshido, we just came over there and saw Tsunade-sama and Rope Tree eating ramen. Ramen? Xingchen thought to himself, now is not the time to eat, right? Well, there is a new Ichiraka ramen restaurant in the east of the village, and many people go to try it, and it is said that it is delicious, and I will try it when I have time. Ichiraka ramen restaurant. When Xingchen heard this familiar store name, he couldn't wait. Uncle Ichiraku in this period must have been very young. Miss Makoto, thank you. The star said goodbye and then walked towards the east. About 6 or 7 minutes later, Hogyoku saw the ramen restaurant, as well as Tsunade and Rope Tree, who were eating. Inside the store, a handsome young man in his 20s is busy, but he is also happy. After all, the business is good, and no matter how tired you are happy. Rope Tree and Tsunade were originally sitting side by side, but Hogyoku forced himself to brutally insert it, squeezed out of position, and shouted at the top of his voice, "Boss, a bowl of seafood ramen." Tsunade was chatting with Rope Tree, but suddenly someone squeezed in, and he was angry in his heart. Which thing that does not open the eyes, cannot be tired of living? But when she turned around and saw the smiling stars, her anger turned into endless joy. Xingchen, you. Why are you here? Tsunade knows the rules of the dark part, and he must wear a mask all year round, hide his identity, and have no vacation time. I thought that Xingchen would not be seen for at least several months when he joined the dark department. Just completed a task, 3 generations were considerate of us and gave us a holiday, so let's come and see you and the Rope Tree. Sarutobi-sensei is very enlightened this time, but it should be related to the task you are doing, a very dangerous task? Hogyoku knew that if he told Tsunade about it, Tsunade would probably run to Hokage and make a fuss, so he still didn't tell the truth. A slightly more difficult task, but for me, it's a piece of cake. Brother Chen, you have been in the dark department for a few days, and this bragging ability has increased a lot. The Rope Tree muttered from the sidelines. Say what? Xingchen glared at him. Are you entertaining today? I didn't bring any money. It's okay for me to treat you today, but next month it's my birthday. What are you going to do? Xingchen was slightly stunned. Yes, there are still 20 days left, and you will have your 10th birthday. But I'm in the dark section, I'm afraid I won't be able to come out at that time. Brother Chen, you are too unkind, the 10th birthday is very commemorative, you don't come to celebrate for me. Rope Tree pouted, then you can give me a birthday present in advance. Xingchen smacked him, you're worried about birthday gifts, aren't you? But then again, this gift is really going to be given, just what is it about sending something to the Rope Tree? Opening the system panel, Xingchen saw that 6,800 was displayed on his points column, which he obtained by killing 6 upper shinobi and sand shinobi, as well as many middle shinobi. 6,800 points, you can do an intermediate lottery, right? Although 5,000 points are not easy to get, both Rope Tree and Tsunade are very important people to him, and there is nothing to be reluctant about. Conduct an intermediate lottery, and the goal is to break through time and space. Hey, it's drawing for you, please wait a minute. Hey, congratulations on obtaining the 7-pin pill Yin Yang Xianlong pill. Yin Yang Xianlong pill? Hearing the prize won, the stars breathed sluggishly. This is the ultimate elixir, although the level may not be the highest, but the effect is amazing, and it has the miraculous effect of reversing the reincarnation of Yin and Yang. In the original book, Rope Tree fell into a trap during the Second Shinobi World War and unfortunately died. From the first day of crossing, the stars have been pondering how to change the ending of the Rope Tree in the future. This Yin Yang Xianlong pill can only be effective when the person taking it is about to die, and it can be said to be tailor-made for him. Xingchen was a little excited. Compared to the life of the Rope Tree, the points consumed were not worth mentioning, after all, it was just a bunch of data. Rope Tree, I have a gift for you, but I'll talk about it when I get home. The 7-pin pill is already an extraordinary thing, of course, it is impossible for the people of the Hokage world to understand the elixir, but the 7-pin pill will emit a strong medicinal fragrance, and anyone who can see it will know that it is a treasure. In order to avoid trouble, it is naturally impossible to take it out in public. Episode 34. Hearing that there was a gift, Rope Tree's eyes suddenly lit up, and the ramen was not in the mood to eat, urging Hogyoku and Tsunade to hurry up and finish eating and go home. Xingchen was helpless, and after only 2 bites of a bowl of seafood ramen, he returned with the Rope Tree. Xingchen, look at your mysterious nature, is it a good thing? Tsunade was also more curious about what the stars were going to give, and he couldn't be seen by outsiders. Xingchen didn't say much, and took out the Yin Yang Xianlong pill from his personal space. No, that's it. The palm is spread, and the pure milky white elixir lies in the palm of the hand, exuding a rich and intoxicating fragrance. Wow, something, it feels amazing. Rope Tree was surprised, but then muttered, Brother Chen, are you candy? Xingchen didn't know how to explain it, but fortunately said, you can eat it as candy, what a treat. The Rope Tree is a little weird. Give a birthday gift and give it candy, Brother Chen is also the first person. But looking at it, it seemed to be quite delicious, and the Rope Tree took it without thinking. Brother Chen, 1 is too little, it's not enough for me to stuff my teeth, another 180. When Xingchen heard this, he couldn't help but roll his eyes. Just this Yin Yang Xianlong pill also cost him almost all of his points, and 180? Don't be satisfied, I can't bear to eat this thing myself, specially left for you, a priceless treasure in the world. Isn't it just a candy, it's so mysterious. Rope Tree disagreed, and casually swallowed the elixir. Don't bite it, swallow it directly. Xingchen emphasized. The Rope Tree choked for a while, but obediently swallowed it directly, and then choked. If you didn't say it earlier, you almost didn't choke to death. But as soon as he finished speaking, his expression suddenly changed again, and there seemed to be a hot fire in his body, impacting his internal organs. Ah. It's so hot, Brother Chen, what are you? The Rope Tree pulled his clothes uncomfortably. Don't worry, I was a little uncomfortable at first. The stars stretched out their hands, condensed the power of ice and snow, and pressed on the Rope Tree to help it relieve the heat in its body. Yin Yang Shanlong pill is a 7-pin pill. The medicinal properties are naturally very strong, and some symptoms will inevitably occur. However, Yin Yang Shanlong pill is a latent elixir. Its effect will not be immediately apparent. Only when it is on the verge of death can it reverse yin and yang and break and stand. After a while, the Rope Tree felt much better before he breathed a sigh of relief. Xingchen, what exactly did you give the Rope Tree to eat, and why is this happening? Tsunade looked at it the whole time, and the more he looked at it, the more strange he felt. Don't worry, I'm serious, this thing is very important, and it will help the Rope Tree a lot in the future. Rope Tree was dissatisfied. In this world, the word future is the most unreliable thing, because no one can say for sure. You little ghost, it's quite philosophical to talk. Xingchen scolded with a smile, but for others, the future is very unreliable. For me, many things are actually preordained. As Xingchen said, San Shinobu village was really angry because of this incident, and his tone was very tough, demanding that Konoha apologize and hand over the murderer of San Shinobu. When Ape Flying Sun Chopper heard this news, he was almost angry. It is clear that the other party provoked first, and deliberately set a trap to ambush the Konoha ninja. Now that the Konoha ninja have killed it back, they still have the face to confess? Sometimes, for the sake of the big picture, you have to make some concessions. But giving in for a while does not mean weakness and bullying. The theft of the seal scroll, the border provocation, have all angered his bottom line. This time, he won't compromise again. There was a fierce conflict between Konoha and San Shinobu village, but at this time, Iwa Shinobu village of Tsukunoku suddenly intervened and proposed a meeting of the 5 Kages, and everyone met in person. Although Ape Flying Sun Chopper felt puzzled, he did not shirk. 2 days later, the 5 Shadows Conference was officially launched, bringing together the contemporary 5 Shadows for the first time. This meeting lasted for 2 days and 2 nights. After returning from the meeting, Sarutobi immediately summoned the stars. Naruto-sama, looking at your appearance, it seems that there is something to worry about. Xingchen asked aloud. Regarding this meeting of the 5 Shadows, he was unexpected, but reasonable. The second ninja war is about to begin, and this meeting is probably hidden and all the ninja villages are watching. Xingchen, tell me honestly, how many people did you kill in this mission? Sarutobi asked very seriously. He thought that he had learned all the details from Kawamoto, but he never expected that the news he received from Shinobi village would be so shocking. Xingchen's face did not change color. About a dozen people. Do these dozen people include 6 Shainin? I don't know. Xingchen shrugged. Sarutobi knew that the stars must be vague, and there was a strict boundary between upper shinobi and middle shinobi, and as long as he made a move, he knew whether it was the upper shinobi level. But is the ambiguity of the stars tantamount to acquiescence? Did he really kill 6 kami shinobi alone? How did you do it? Ape Flying Sun Chopper found that he couldn't see through this 12-year-old boy at all. Does it matter? Hashichin said, no matter what, I'm part of Konoha, and I won't do anything to harm the village. And you, as the Hokage, should pay more attention to the next ninja realm pattern. Ape Feiry was slightly stunned. What do you mean? I don't believe you have no premonition at all. Xingchen said solemnly, any war will not break out for no reason. It is caused by the accumulation and precipitation of countless contradictions, or the expansion of the ambitions of some people. Ape Feiry's expression changed. You said war? Yes, an inevitable war is about to break out. Now it's time to plan ahead and prepare early. Ape Feiry was very solemn. War is not a child's play, but San Shinobu is indeed too arrogant and presumptuous. If there is really a war, Konoha will not be afraid of it. No, you misunderstood me. Xingchen shook his head and said, I don't mean the war between Konoha and the Shinobi village, but the Ninja World War. Episode 35. For the Ninja World War mentioned by Xingchen, the 3 generations of Hokage are obviously conservative and ready to wait and see. Although during this time, the impression given to him by the stars was extremely special and mysterious. But the ninja world war is not trivial, and he can't listen to the words of the stars and move the crowd. Of course, in the current situation, it is always right to do some basic precautions. Xingchen doesn't care if the 3 generations believe it or not, anyway, his words have been picked out, and what to do next, you can only go with the flow. Saying goodbye to Rope Tree and Tsunade, Hoshi returns to the Dark Division. Captain, Tuanzo asked me to invite you over. Yuna has apparently seen Tuanzo again, but she doesn't know how she reported to Tuanzo. Xingchen glanced at Yuna and asked, you seem to have a very close relationship with Tuanzong? Not really, it's just that he is the creator of Root, and his power in the dark part is second only to Hokage. I dare not offend. Then forget it, you tell him, I'm not available for the time being. Yuna. The last time she refused Tuanzong, Yuna already felt that the stars were too dragging, and this second time she refused, which is equivalent to directly slapped Tuanzong. Xingchen does have a deliberately perfunctory meaning, he is a little straight, influenced by the original work, and he has a very bad impression of Tuanzang. It's good not to see Tuanzong, if you really see it, I'm afraid it will be even more unpleasant. During this time, I will retreat, you will solve some small tasks by yourself, and don't bother me if there are no major things. Retreat? Kawamoto and Nakata also gathered around. Captain, do you want to practice new ninjutsu? Captain, who did you learn your ninjutsu from, and that perfect ninja knife, which can create an ice and snow world with a light wave, it's amazing. Yuna said seriously, the ninjutsu of the ice and snow attribute is naturally a secret art. Since it is a secret technique, how can I tell you casually? Yes, we're just curious, Captain. It's okay. As the captain, Xingchen also has some permissions, and he doesn't have to do a lot of things himself, and he has a lot of free time. In this retreat, he was ready to study the Qinglian Earth Heart Fire and hit the level of elite patience, by the way. Don't look at his ability to kill Shangnan, but the quality of chakra in his body is only at the ordinary shinobi level. Tuanzong was rejected for the second time, and he didn't seem angry, still patient, and didn't come to trouble Xingchen. And just like that, 3 months passed calmly on the surface. In 3 months, Xingchen's chakra made a qualitative breakthrough and successfully promoted to the level of elite middle patience, which was only one opportunity away from upper patience. On this day, Xingchen was in a good mood and walked out of the secret room. Yuna and the others are getting ready to go, and it seems that there is some task. Captain, are you out of customs? Well, what are you doing? Naruto-sama said that it has been an eventful time lately, and ordered the village to strengthen its defenses. Previously, 1 dark squad was responsible for patrolling the village every week, but this time increased to 3. Captain, it's just a patrol, I don't need you to go, you better rest. Xingchen stretched his waist and said, I'm the captain, it's not good to always be serious, this time I'll join me. Several people looked at each other, and they all felt that the sun was coming out in the west. Xingchen also changed into a costume, put on a mask, and began to go to his post. Dark patrols, in fact, are a bit similar to the urban management troops in modern society, so that the stars are not awkward. After going around the village a few times, and not noticing anything unusual, Xingchen already felt a little sleepy. However, at this moment, an alarm suddenly sounded from the south of the village. Without saying a word, Xingchen immediately took people with him. The alarm was raised by a hot spring spot. When Xingchen arrived, the owner of the hot spring immediately complained, recently, people often come to our place to spy on women bathing, which has seriously affected our business and reputation here. I ask you to catch the thief and punish him severely. Xingchen has a groove in his heart, it won't be Ji Lei, right? But he soon asked as usual, did you see where the man was running? Over there. The boss pointed in the direction of the trail to the east. Yuna, let's chase. Captain. Yuna hesitated, really chasing? Yuna apparently knew it was Jiraiya as well. Who is Jirai? He peeped at others to take a bath not once or twice, every time the dark part even if he caught a square, he could only turn a blind eye and do superficial work, who dared to really catch him? Duty is in hand, how can you not chase, follow me. The stars quickly caught up. Yuna and the others had no choice, but to follow. Although he got a little carried away when he peeped and exposed his whereabouts, he still seemed very leisurely, strolling leisurely all the way. The first time he did this kind of thing, he was still a little cautious, but slowly found that no one seemed to care about him, so he became more and more bold, so that now he is not red at all, his heart is not beating, and he is unscrupulous. Hey, wait, someone chased you? Zilai also heard the noise behind him, and immediately left an eye. The people in the dark department can't be chasing me, right? Zilai also panicked, which team is this, why don't you play cards according to common sense? He didn't dare to let the dark part catch it, otherwise his reputation in this life would be ruined. So, he began to run away quickly. However, the people behind were obviously determined to catch him, let him run wherever he went, and still chased after him. Brother D, this won't be specially trained by teacher Ape Fei to deal with me, why are you so dead-eyed? Ji Lai was also panicked. As he was running, he suddenly saw a familiar figure coming towards him, which made him think badly. Big Snake Pill, you're still running, I caught you. Jiraiya suddenly shouted. The Big Snake Pill looked at Jiraiya, who rushed over inexplicably, and said speechlessly, Jiraiya, do you want to fight with me? Zilai also grabbed the Big Snake Pill's clothes. You still have garlic, I saw it all just now, what do you see? Orochimaru was full of question marks. At this moment, Xingchen Yuna and several people also followed, and when they saw Jiraiya and Orochimaru, they couldn't help but look at each other. A few little brothers, you are here to catch that voyeur. Come on, I'll catch it for you. Jiraiya smiled. Orochimaru looked at a few people in the dark part of the stars, and thought about Jiraiya's usual behavior, and probably figured out what was going on. This kid actually dares to let himself back the black pot? But then again, these little ghosts in the dark department are really powerful, and they dare to chase after Zilai and run all over the place. With a movement in his heart, the Big Snake Pill suddenly smiled evilly. Yes, I did it, do you want to arrest me? The Big Snake Pill is evil, does not care what others think, and does not mind carrying this black pot for Jiraiya. Compared with those insignificant things, he was more interested in whether the stars really dared to arrest him. Captain, this. Yuna was convulsed, what can I do about this? You can't catch it, and the Big Snake Pill can't be touched, that's no different from looking for death. Xingchen looked at Jiraiya and Orochimaru, thinking that when these two were young, the relationship was really good. However, he pretended to be serious and said, Big Snake Pill, although you admit that you did it. But I followed you and saw both of you, which means you are both suspicious. To be on the safe side, both of you are going to come with me. Episode 36, Xingchen's words cannot be described as amazing. Even if Jiraiya and Orochimaru are not yet the legendary 3 shinobi, their reputation in Konoha is still very loud and respected by everyone. People like the stars, who openly fight with them, will definitely not find a second one. Zilai also plays drums in his heart, this kid is really a ruthless character, oil and salt do not enter, soft and hard do not eat. But then again, Orochimaru is not a character to mess with, there are good dramas to watch. You're going to get me? Orochimaru raised his eyebrows, and there seemed to be a wistful smile at the corner of his mouth. It's just that this smile is intriguing. According to the Konoha law, you will not be punished for what you have done, but you must apologize to the hot spring owner. If the boss asks for it, you must also compensate for the damage. The stars are word by word, with boards and eyes. Do you think it's possible for me to apologize to a village name? Orochimaru said lightly, no one can afford my apology yet. You refuse? Of course, obvious. Then you are now guilty of obstructing official duties, and I will arrest you according to law. The Big Snake Pill stared at the stars for a long time, and suddenly stretched out his right hand. Hidden Shadow, Snake Hand. A giant snake, several meters long, flew out of the Big Snake Pill's hand at an extremely fast speed, and instantly entangled the stars. Captain. Yuna and the others were shocked, they also did not expect that the Big Snake Pill would suddenly make a move. You guys back off, let me learn his tricks. Even if the stars were trapped, their voices were very calm, as if they were confident. Good courage, let me see who is under your mask. The Big Snake Pill rushed forward, and grabbed the mask of the stars with his left hand. He was really curious about what kind of divine this little devil was. However, seeing that the mask was about to be lifted, he only heard a click, and the person in front of him turned into ice cubes and shattered in response. Huh? Orochimaru was startled. Ice doppelganger? The self next to him was also shocked, he had seen the water body, but the ice doppelganger had never heard of it. Konoha's dark part, although it has always been mysterious, but how many masters there are, he also knows some, why has he not heard of this figure? Be careful. The voice of the reminder sounded from behind, and when Orochimaru turned around, he saw 4 shurikens shooting from the air. Insect tricks. Orochimaru's snake hand can attack and defend, block in front of him, and intercept all the shurikens. It's not over yet. The figure of the star appeared out of thin air, and his hands quickly froze. Seeing this familiar sealing method, Orochimaru was shocked. Shadow Doppelganger Shuriken. Immediately, 4 shurikens, 4.8, 8.16, 16.32, 32.64. 64 shurikens, forming a rain of shurikens, densely packed. Rao is a Big Snake Pill. Without psychological preparation, he did not dare to hard connect, and was temporarily retreated dozens of steps. Big Snake Pill, against a junior, you actually have to hide, it's too shameful. Zilai also laughed mockingly on the side. Orochimaru snorted coldly, ignoring Jiraiya, and just stared at the stars with a frown. Who taught you this shadow doppelganger shuriken? Zilai was also surprised. Shouldn't it be another secret disciple of teacher Ape Fei? Not really. Xingchen shook his head. He had seen the rope tree knotted print, and when he was in retreat, he accidentally figured it out. It's just that you can't tell the big snake pill for the time being, otherwise your identity will be revealed immediately. Whether you are or not, you managed to pique my interest. Orochimaru smiled evilly again. Next, it's time to move the real thing. I hope you don't just have this level. Seriously? The stars seemed to be equally excited, and their feet sank, suddenly moving like the wind. Pung! As his body swept by, the ground tumbled everywhere he passed, leaving terrifying traces. What a strong, explosive power. Zilai also looked a little amazed, a little dignified. This kid is not only powerful in ninjutsu, it seems that physical skills are also pure? The big snake pill's gaze froze, and his hands were sealed. Tuduan, Tuliu wall, a thick wall rising out of thin air, blocked the stars. Do you want to intercept me with this level of Tuduan? The speed of the stars did not decrease, but a blue spiral chakra condensed in his hand. Spiral pill. Rumble. No matter how thick the wall in front of you is, it is still shattered in an instant. Bombarding through the wall, the spiral pill did not abate, and directly bombarded the big snake pill. Nice ninjutsu, but you were careless. The big snake pill admired the subtlety of the spiral pill, but the body hit by the spiral pill turned into a puddle of mud and sand. Earth doppelganger? Xingchen knew that the big snake pill would not be so easy to hit. That's right, so it's time for me to make a move, right? The body of the big snake pill appeared from behind the stars, and both hands came out together. Destroy the snake dance. In an instant, countless giant snakes were channeled out, swirling and dancing, and launched a fierce attack on the stars. The terrifying offensive is invulnerable and seems irresistible. Captain, be careful. Yuna and several people were shocked to see it, for fear that something would happen to the stars. Xingchen took a few steps back, thinking that the big snake pill really had something unique. He was only in the elite ninja now, but the big snake pill was already an elite upper ninja level. But that doesn't mean you're going to lose. After taking a few steps back, seeing that there was no way to retreat, Xingchen paused and resisted this move. Stupid. The big snake pill snorted disdainfully, thinking that Xingchen was begging for his own suffering. His move belongs to a powerful attack ninjutsu. Even if he changes to Jiraiya and Tsunade, he does not dare to resist head-on. Xingchen is a middle forbearance, dare to be so big? Young and vigorous, reckless. Jiraiya sighed, wondering if he wanted to call an ambulance. Yikes. The dense group of snakes instantly engulfed the stars, as if there were no bones left to eat them. Big snake pill, it's almost okay, are you really ready to kill him? Jiraiya spoke. No, anyone who dares to deliberately provoke me should have some skills, see how long he can carry it. The big snake pill was calm, staring at the stars, drowning in the snakes. At this moment, only to hear a sudden sound, a huge cyan lotus rose from the snake group. This is... Everyone present changes color at the same time. The cyan lotus seemed to be in the form of flames again, extremely destructive, and anything that touched it turned into ashes. The snake group of the big snake pill evaporated out of thin air in a blink of an eye, leaving only a few small snakes, howling miserably on the ground. Episode 37, What is this? The big snake pill was shocked. The cyan lotus seemed to have a devastating devouring power, and his group of snakes did not even have the slightest strength to resist. It seems to be a flame, is it some kind of special fire? Zilai also looked solemn. The stars are strong, and the tricks used by the key are strange, and even they have never seen it. This is true of the ice avatar, and so is the current lotus flame. Orochimaru, do you want to continue? In the field, the stars were shining with blue light, and the cyan lotus flowers were like a guardian spirit, guarding beside him, and the gods and ghosts were incomprehensible. After the big snake pill was in a state of mind, he showed a smile again. He is always excited about the unknown. Since you are so strong, then I will do my best. The big snake pill said, biting his finger. He was about to make a psychic seal. However, at this moment, an angry shout sounded. Orochimaru, what are you doing? If the second person dared to reprimand him in such a tone, he would definitely be furious, even if the ape-flying sun slashed. But this person... Zilai next to him also shrunk his neck, and he had a bad premonition in his heart. Yikes. Two figures landed, one large and one small, one male and one female. Tsunade, why are you here? Orochimaru asked. I haven't asked you yet, why did you get started? Tsunade's tone was questioning. However, this questioning was completely aimed at the big snake pill, and it seemed that in her opinion, Xingchen was the victim. You know this little ghost? Orochimaru pointed to the stars. Uncle Orochimaru, he's Brother Chen. Rope Tree reminded. Brother Chen? The big snake pill was slightly stunned. It seems that my mask is redundant so that you can recognize it. Xingchen knew that his identity was revealed, and there was no way to hide it, so he simply took off the mask. Hehe, of course, Brother Chen's aura can't be imitated by others. The Rope Tree ghostly said. Count you as A. Xingchen gave him an approving look. Are you? Orochimaru looked at the stars in amazement. It turned out to be my own family. Zilai also jumped over, put his arm around Xingchen's neck, and looked very good. You kid is not kind, chasing me all over the street. Do you know that I even hugged you and peed when I was a child? When Xingchen heard this, he rolled his eyes. He and Jiraiya and Orochimaru have met several times because of Tsunade, but they are definitely not very familiar. I'm afraid that in the eyes of Jiraiya and Orochimaru, he has always been just a dispensable little character. Jiraiya, you admit that I am running after you, which is equivalent to admitting that you are peeping in the hot spring. Xingchen looked at Jiraiya with a smile. Oops, it's leaking. Zilai also quickly covered his mouth. Pung. Without waiting for him to come and go, a fierce fist slammed into his face, instantly causing him to fly out like a cannonball. Zilai, you do such a dirty thing again, give me death. The furious Tsunade was still not relieved, and chased after him and beat him again. Xingchen felt funny, and his strength was definitely above Tsunade, but it was a pity that he didn't dare to fight back at all. Brother Chen, you actually made a move with Uncle Orochimaru, it's too messy. Rope Tree protested dissatisfiedly. You know, he made the stars a target to catch up. The big snake pill is now his instructor, and the duel between Xingchen and the big snake pill does not seem to fall behind, so isn't he several dimensions worse than Brother Chen? It's just a whim. Xingchen naturally didn't really want to catch Zilai and the big snake pill back, but because he had been in retreat for a long time, he needed to find someone to practice his moves and verify what he had comprehended in the retreat. I have to say that the big snake pill is indeed a good opponent. In this battle, he still has one last new trick that he has not used, and he has not fully enjoyed it. So it is, you are very good. Today's battle has no result, he will definitely have a chance in the future, look forward to it. Orochimaru said something intriguing to the stars and turned away. Xingchen's heart moved, shouldn't the big snake pill be interested in him? Most of the people who were targeted by the big snake pill became experimental specimens, and it was chilling to think about. Tsunade grabbed Jiraiya like an eagle carrying a chicken and asked, Xingchen, you can dispose of this guy at will, I will support you, don't be afraid. Xingchen Guanair said with a smile, forget it, I'm in a good mood today, just turn a blind eye. As soon as Zilai heard this, he immediately became lively again, grabbed Xingchen's shoulder, and said gratefully, young man, I am optimistic about you, you have a very promising future. Xingchen slapped his hand away and said, you better restrain yourself in the future, voyeurism this kind of thing, after all, it is very dirty, ahem. Zilai obviously didn't want to talk more about this topic, and asked instead, Xingchen, what is that chakra pill you just used to deal with the great snake pill? Looking at Jiraiya gesturing clumsily, Xingchen knew that he was asking about Orochimaru. Unexpectedly, he didn't pay attention to Qinglian Earth Heart Fire, but paid more attention to the spiral pill. But yes, after all, the spiral pill is formed by chakra rotation condensation, and he can probably understand some of it, and he can't touch the fur at all in Qinglian Earth Heart Fire. Do you mean this? Xingchen stretched out his right hand, and the palm of his hand quickly condensed a spiral pill. Yes, this is it. Jiraiya stared at the spiral pill, carefully and seriously, thoughtfully. Brother Chen, what kind of ninjutsu is this? It looks so powerful, can you teach me? The eyes of the rope tree glowed with essence. Of course, it's not difficult to learn. The rope tree is willing to learn, and the stars naturally will not hide, but they have suffered for 4 generations of Hokage. In the future, if he creates a spiral pill, when he is complacent, he finds that this is a bad ninjutsu, and he doesn't know how to feel. Episode 38. 2 months passed quietly, the pattern of the ninja world became more and more turbulent, and the ambitions of the 3 major ninja villages of Yennin Village, Sand Ninja Village, and Yunin Village changed from light to dark, and began to recklessly stir up beacons in various places. On this day, the 3 generations of Hokage suddenly summoned the stars. Here you go. After the star came, the 3 generations directly gave him a scroll without saying a word. After the results of the stars, he was slightly stunned. This is the ninjutsu seal scroll? Yes, it is the sealing scroll of the first and second generations, which records many essence ninjutsu in Konoha. You take it back for reference. Xingchen thought to himself that there was such a good thing. Seeing that Xingchen looked puzzled, the third generation of Hokage explained, as you said, war is inevitable. From now on, Konoha will enter the first level of alert and prepare for the second Shinobi World War. It's not too late to realize now. This battle will surely be ruined again, which is really not what I want. The third generation of Hokage said seriously, but since war is inevitable, in order to reduce Konoha's sacrifice, Konoha should also do his best to fight. Therefore, top-notch combat power is essential. Xingchen touched his nose. Naruto-sama, I'm not 13 years old yet, so you treat me as a top combat power and let me fight? Although the three generations did not say it explicitly, now that this sealing scroll is sent, the meaning is obvious. Don't be presumptuous. Judging by your performance in recent times, it is enough to be a big task. The battlefield in the future will be the place where you will make a name. My hopes for you are no less than the three of Orochimaru. Okay, then I'll take this thing. Xingchen was also quite curious about the sealing scroll. As for going to the battlefield, instead of refusing, he couldn't ask for it. Back at the residence, the stars immediately began to open the sealing scroll. None of the records in the scroll are ordinary ninjutsu, not to mention powerful, at least they have their own unique advantages. The art of multiple shadow doppelgangers. Flying Thunder God's art. Multiply the detonator. 5-element sealing. Blood contract psychic. The stars swept down at a glance, and he knew several legendary ninjutsu, but there were also many unfamiliar ninjutsu. However, forbidden techniques such as Dirt Rebirth and 8 Gates Dunjia do not exist in the scroll. The Shadow Doppelganger and the sealing technique are not attractive to the stars now. Flying Thunder God and Psychic Stars were both somewhat interested. But in comparison, he cares more about Psychic. Although the Flying Thunder God is powerful, the stars think that their speed is fast enough, and learning to fly the Thunder God is just the icing on the cake. And Psychic, he still doesn't know anything at all, which belongs to the short board. Psychic art can almost be said to be basic ninjutsu in the Naruto world, but it is also an extremely important ninjutsu, and there is a Psychic Beast bonus in battle, and the combat power is doubled. Blood Contract Psychic, as the name suggests, is a psychic technique that uses blood as a medium to summon a contract with oneself to assist in battle. Hi, Jiao, Yu, Shen, Wei. Xingchen bit his finger and drew a blood bar in the palm of his hand, according to the scroll, not very skillfully forming a handprint. Psychic. The palm landed on the ground, the blood spirit turned into a rune seal, spreading around, and the stars could clearly feel a mysterious force of time and space surging. However, after a long time, nothing happened. The stars are not surprising. Psychic arts need to contract psychic beasts first, and then summon. He still doesn't have any blood contract psychic beasts, and casting psychic techniques will naturally have no effect. At the moment, he performed the spell just to familiarize himself with the seal and experiment with it. However, just as the seal was removed, Xingchen suddenly heard a woo-woo shout, which seemed to be the cry of a child, and it seemed to be the moan/groan of some kind of small beast. Is it an illusion, or? The stars are strange. That kind of voice is definitely not the voice in reality, as if it comes from infinite time and space, calling him. Captain, I just met Miss Tsunade, and she said that she had something important to find you and let you go home to meet her. Yuna's voice came from outside, which made Xingchen suppress the surprise in her heart. Okay, I see. Hashitaka returned home. Tsunade had been waiting for him, and Rope Tree seemed to be absent. Tsunade, what's the matter with me, so urgent? Xingchen, I heard that the 3 major ninja villages of San Shinobu, Iwa Shinobu, and Yin Shinobu have been very restless recently, and it seems that they want to provoke a war. You should be careful. Xingchen wondered, what does this have to do with me? Why should I be careful? Of course it matters. The current situation, if you are not careful, may turn into a ninja war at any time. At that time, Sarutobi teacher will personally go to battle, and you, as the Dark Ministry, will also follow him to the battlefield. The Ninja World War affects everyone, and it has nothing to do with whether I am a dark part or not. Even if I'm not in the shadows, I'm going to fight, so be more careful. Tsunade said seriously, I form a team with Orochimaru and Jiraiya, and I have very important tasks to do. I'm afraid I won't be able to be with you at that time. I know, don't worry, I'll take care of myself, and you have to be careful. Hearing this, Tsunade seemed to be sweeter than eating honey, and said with a smile, it's rare to hear a caring word from your mouth. Xingchen was embarrassed, and then changed his tone and asked, Tsunade, can you psychic slugs now? Tsunade practiced this area. Xingchen did not know much, so she was not sure if she had signed a contract with the slug. When Tsunade heard this, his eyes widened and he was surprised. How do you know about slugs? Since the contract with the slug, she has never shown it in front of people, and it stands to reason that apart from her and Sarutobi-sensei, no one knows about it. Not only do I know slugs, but I also know about wet-boned forests. Xingchen smiled mysteriously, but don't care how I know, I'm learning psychic arts, and I don't have a blood contract psychic beast yet, so I want you to build a line and let me sign a blood contract with the slug. For Tsunade, Hashichin has always trusted unreservedly. This is simple, follow me. When Tsunade heard this, he came to the courtyard with the stars. Psychic. Tsunade performed psychic magic, and a slug, more than a meter tall, was summoned. Episode 39. Unlike the toad in Miamu Mountain, there is only one slug, and any psychic slug, the psychic is just a doppelganger of the wet-boned forest slug. And the size of this avatar is determined by the ability of the psychic. At this moment, Tsunade was obviously not skilled, and the slug summoned was only more than a meter tall, not much bigger than an ordinary person. Tsunade-sama suddenly summoned me out, is there something wrong? The slugs looked at the surroundings and looked a little unclear. This is my brother Xingchen, you take out the contract book of the wet-boned forest. The slugs glanced at Xingchen and were stunned, is he also a member of the Thousand Hands clan? I'm not from the Senju clan, and Tsunade and I are not brothers and sisters. Xingchen answered truthfully. Slug, the wet-boned forest doesn't stipulate that only people from the Thousand Hands clan can become contractors, right? It's not, the person recommended by Tsunade-sama, I can naturally trust it, but he's still too young, right? Tsunade smiled and said, don't worry, Xingchen's strength is definitely not superficial, and now he is enough to learn psychic, that. Alright. The slug, half convinced, glanced at the stars again, and then spit out a scroll from his mouth. Tsunade took the scroll over and unfolded it in front of the stars. The scroll is divided into countless columns, each of which represents the name of a contractor. At this time, there were already 4 people's names on the scroll, and the rest were blank. These 4 contractors are Senju Tsunade, and Tsunade's parents, all of whom are members of the Senju clan. Xingchen, you just need to write your name on the scroll with blood. I understand that. The stars didn't say much, condensed their own blood, and wrote their names on the scroll. Now, I can use psychic, right? The stars jumped to the side, their hands sealed. This is the second seal, and he is already very proficient. Both Tsunade and slugs looked expectant, wanting to see how talented the stars were. Hi, Jiao, Yu, Shen, Wei. Psychic, Peng. With a loud bang, the slug, which had been huge, appeared out of thin air. So big. Tsunade looked at the huge slug, which was 3 or 4 meters tall, and was shocked in his heart. Xingchen has just learned the art of channeling, and the slug summoned is actually several times larger than hers, which is also too exaggerated, right? Could it be that his strength is above himself? Tsunade shook her head, she thought it was impossible, it should just be that Xingchen was better at psychic than herself. So it is. The stars standing on the giant slug's body had almost completely mastered the skills of psychic art through this summoning. Tsunade, this younger brother of yours is extremely talented, and his future is limitless. The slugs were also sighing, even the original Hokage was not as stunning as the stars. Tsunade listened and smiled a little proudly, of course, he is a true genius, and he may be able to surpass his grandfather in the future, maybe it's worth looking forward to. The slug said, and asked, it seems that war is about to break out again in the ninja world recently? Well, the second ninja world war is unavoidable, it may break out at any time, and I am afraid that I will need your help at that time. Happy to serve. The psychic experiment was successful, and the stars let the slugs go back. The slug's combat power is not strong, it belongs to the healing psychic beast, it is not suitable for him, this time it is just an attempt. What he needs is a psychic beast of the combat department. The psychic technique came to an end, and Xingchen began to study the other ninjutsu on the sealing scroll. However, he does not want to learn everything, many ninjutsu only need to be understood, and he still understands the truth of greedy and chewy. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, another 3 months passed. Xingchen felt that it was almost the same, so he returned the sealing scroll to the 3 generations of Hokage. In just 3 months, even if you are a genius, you can comprehend 1 or 2 ninjutsu at most, right? The 3 generations of Hokage were strange, and Xingchen actually took the initiative to return the sealing scroll. Hokage, you overestimate me, I only learned the psychic art of the ninjutsu above, and the rest of the ninjutsu is esoteric, and it is not very suitable for me, and it is useless to learn strongly. Psychic? The 3rd generation of Hokage frowned slightly. Although the psychic art is stored in the sealing scroll, it is actually a very popular ninjutsu, and many people understand it. Xingchen had only learned this ninjutsu, and it didn't make much sense to borrow the sealing scroll for his reference. It's better than not learning, and there really isn't much time for you to refer to it in detail right now. Xingchen was slightly startled and asked, "Is there any situation?" Well, after deliberation, the Konoha high level unanimously decided that it was better to strike preemptively than to sit still. The 3 generations of Hokage said, if there is to be a war, the battlefield will inevitably be chosen in the Land of Rain at the junction of the 3 countries. The fighting has not yet broken out, but we need to send an advance force over first and prepare accordingly. Xingchen thought that sure enough, the small country has no human rights, and the country of Rain is really inexplicably victimized, and it is no wonder that Uzumaki Nagato is so hostile to Konoha. Naruto-sama specifically mentioned this to me. It seems that our 7th detachment is one of the candidates this time. Xingchen knew that an advance force, relying on a few of them alone was useless, and they definitely needed assistance. Yes, you are the most suitable person. Of course, there were also the 3rd, 9th, and 14th teams. Xingchen nodded secretly, and then asked, is there still someone missing? 4 detachments together form the advance force, but the 4 detachments are independent. Xingchen is the captain of the 7th team, he can manage Yuna's subordinates, but the rest of the team will not listen to him. Such a force together, without a unified commander, will only be a dispersal. So, there must be a supreme leader. The 3rd generation of Hokage smiled, you are really smart. At this moment, the door of the office was opened, and a heroic middle-aged male walked in, saw Xingchen, stretched out his hand, and said in good faith, Captain Xingchen, you and I have finally met, I hope this cooperation is happy. Seeing this person, Xingchen's whole person suddenly became bad. This person is no one else, but the group Zou he least wants to see. Episode 40, Xingchen was speechless, he didn't want to see Tuanzang, but he didn't expect that now Tuanzang became his direct boss. When you go to the Land of Rain, do you have to follow his instructions? But now, if he suddenly proposed to Hokage and did not carry out this mission, I am afraid that he would be suspicious. As soon as you heard that Tuanzang led the team, you didn't go. Isn't this clear and unpleasant to the eyes of Tuanzang? What would Tuanzang think? Captain Star, don't you seem to be happy? Tuanzang's eyes were sharp, staring straight at the stars. Xingchen shrugged and said, the nature of the advance force and the death squad is the same, and it is also the most dangerous. It's strange that you can be happy about this errand. Captain Star's words are bad, although our trip will be risky, but as a ninja, it is also a great honor. Hokage trusts you to let you travel on missions. Okay, then when to go, I'll get ready. The stars had no choice but to accept. 3 days later. This trip to the Land of Rain will probably last until the outbreak of war and will not be able to return for a long time. However, he was not ready to say goodbye to Tsunade Ropetree, because Tsunade and Ropetree would also go to the battlefield, and they would just meet on the battlefield when the time came. The task of the advance force is also confidential, and the fewer people who know about it, the better. Of course, Xingchen is not because he doesn't say goodbye to Tsunade, but because he is afraid that Tsunade will make a fuss and make a life and death parting incitement/love words, he can't stand it. After informing Yuna of the mission details, several people looked particularly excited. For them, the battlefield is not a battlefield, but an amusement park. 3 days later, late at night, the advance troops, summoned by Tuanzang, gathered at the entrance of the village. The 4th, 3rd, 7th, 9th, and 14th squads, plus the supreme leader Tuanzang and his 2 entourage, totaled 27 people. Rushing late at night, I really picked the time. Xingchen said with a yawn. In front of Tuanzang, I am afraid that only he dares to speak like this. The rest of the people, even the detachment leader, were equally obedient to Tuanzang. Be bold, dare to be rude in front of Lord Tuanzhou. The 2 attendants behind the regiment's hiding reprimand. However, Tuanzang waved his hand, signaled them to retreat, and said to Xingchen calmly, Captain Xingchen, the Dark Department has always acted secretively, and our mission is confidential. Walking late at night, it is inevitable, you should take more responsibility. When Xingchen heard this, he was surprised in his heart, he didn't know that Tuanzang was so easy to talk to. I just said casually, you don't have to take it seriously, hurry. Although the group's whereabouts were secret, they were fast, there was almost no rest on the road, and they had already reached the Rainland before sunrise. However, as soon as they crossed the border, a group of masked ninjas immediately appeared and surrounded them. Before, no matter who you are, no matter what purpose you have in coming to the Land of Rain, please leave immediately, otherwise you can't wait for me. The group stopped and looked at Tuanzang, waiting for his instructions. They have been extremely careful in their actions, but they don't want to be discovered, and the guards of this Rain country are really not ordinarily powerful. Danzo-sama, it seems to be a ninja of the Land of Rain, what should I do? Tuanzang's eyes were deep, and then said coldly, a group of rabble, not regular ninjas of the Rain Ninja Village, directly broke through and killed. Yes. With Tuanzang's order, the three dark teams did not say a word, cooperated seamlessly, and broke forward. Only the stars did not move. The stars don't move, and Yuna and Kawamoto naturally don't move. Captain Star, although Hokage values you very much, since you are here, it is best to listen to my unified command. If you ignore my orders, I am afraid that you will shake the hearts of the military. Tuanzang's tone was calm, without a trace of emotion. No, you said it all, this is just a group of rabble. With the excellence of the Konoha Dark Department, one detachment is enough to deal with, not to mention 3 dark teams. I can't make a move. Tuanzang took a deep look at the stars and did not say more. As Danzo said, these ninjas who stopped in front were not regular ninjas of the Rain Ninja Village, but mercenaries of the Rain Country, or patriotic ninjas who spontaneously organized. At the moment of turmoil in the ninja world, strategists can see the situation clearly and guess that the country of Rain will become a place of war. So countless patriots spontaneously organized rebels to try to stop the chaos from the door. However, this is tantamount to a mantis as a car. How can the spontaneously organized scattered ninjas withstand the regular elite members of the Dark Department of Konoha? Therefore, there is no suspense. Even if there are many people on the other side, they are defeated in a very short time, and the obstacles are cleared. Xingchen didn't want to make a move. In fact, he was a little unbearable. On the battlefield, he can treat San Shinobu, Iwa Shinobu, and Yun Shinobu as enemies, and he will not feel guilty as much as he kills. But the country of Rain is indeed innocent, and these ninjas in front of them are weak in strength, but they are full of patriotism and resist to the death, which is worthy of admiration. Of course, he is not a savior, and even if he sympathizes with them, he cannot change the fact that the fire of the Ninja World War will ignite in the Land of Rain. It seems that Konoha is the first to settle in the Land of Rain, which may give us a head start. Tuanzang's eyes were deep, and he seemed to have some calculations in his heart. As an advance force, what they have to do is to collect intelligence, survey the terrain, lay traps at key locations, and so on. The stars camped in a dangerous valley in the Land of Rain, and they usually had a division of labor, each with their own work. The work of the star detachment is mainly to survey the terrain, so it has to travel around almost within the territory of the Land of Rain to draw the most detailed maps. After dozens of days, each had its first results and returned to the camp. After Xingchen returned, he was about to talk to Tuanzang, but found that Tuanzang was not there. After asking others, I heard that Tuanzang had been missing for 3 days. What the hell is this Tuanzang? As a leader, but not guarding the camp, disappearing for 3 days, no trace of it, obviously there is a problem. With Tuanzang's strength, there will be no accident, only it is possible that he himself has hidden his whereabouts, which is inconvenient for people to know. But in the territory of the Land of Rain where war is about to break out, where can he, as an aggressor, go?